to the Token and Hobbs Show on the Roads to Liberty Network.
Good evening, Liberty lovers. Welcome to another episode of the Token and Hobbs Show on the Road to Liberty Network. I am so glad you all decided to join us here tonight live on a Tuesday night. Welcome, one and all. I'm your host, Token, and with me, of course, my partner in crime, Mr. Dustin Hobbs. What is up, Mr. Congressman? How are you doing?
Congressman-elect, yes, but I'm doing quite well.
Of course. Any updates in that lawsuit that I've heard so much about?
Currently, they are kicking it back for procedural reasonings. So
That's bullshit.
we're going to try. Yep, we're going to take it all the way to the Supremes.
Oh my goodness, that's horrible.
And by the Supremes, I mean Vermin Supreme.
You know what? Vermin Supreme is the ultimate arbiter in these kind of things. So fix that. So yeah, absolutely. Vermin Supreme is a much more trustworthy individual than anybody that works in our federal government right now. Until the day, of course, when you get to sit in the halls of Congress, then you will be the most trustworthy man in the federal government.
Yes, most trusted name in news or something like that.
It's Stonks Day. We get to talk Stonks today.
Stonks, yes, the stonk market has gone absolutely crazy over the last week. But what's even crazier is the big players' response to it.
Oh yes. Do you wanna lead us into this?
Okay,
do you want me? Should I explain what exactly is going on first, and then you can go into the mainstream response to it? I get not the mainstream response, because the mainstream response is almost universal glee at what's going on. That's the mainstream response. The mainstream media's response and the elite response is something woefully different. And it's quite hilarious seeing people expose themselves for the shills that they are over this.
Yeah. So essentially what happened is GameStop to start out with, and then a few other undervalued stocks later on down the line. But GameStop to start out with, which is essentially running the same model as Blockbuster Video did, where they have retail outlets and they sell hard copies of video games and game paraphernalia and stuff like that. So their stock was low, trading at something like $5 a share at its lowest point. So a company called Melvin Capital decided that they were going to short GameStop's stocks.
That's gonna get
big
fun
way.
to say. GameStop stock.
I'm just gonna say GameStonk from here on out.
That's right. That's how you do it.
So anyways, they decided they were going to short GameStonk like 140%, which I still don't understand how you can short a stock for more stock than actually exists, but whatever, them's the rules of the game.
Here's what I'm thinking that you can do with how you can do that. And again, I'm not a stocks guy, so I don't know. Because the way you short a stock is you say, oh, I think this stock is overvalued. It's going to lose its value. So say Hobbs has GameStonk, and I think his GameStonk is overvalued. So I'll borrow it from him and sell it with the promise that I'll give it back to him, right? So I have to buy the stock back. So I'll borrow it from him. I'll sell it for $10. And when the price goes down to $4, I'll buy it back, give Hobbs a buck, and pocket the other $5, right? And give him his stock back.
That's exactly how it is.
So I assume that the people you sell it to, you could then borrow it from them and sell it to somewhere else, and that's how you short 140% of the stock. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not a stocks guy, but maybe that's how they did it.
Yeah, that might very well be the case. It's like, hey, I'm going to sell this to you. Hey, can I borrow it for a hot minute while I go and sell it to somebody else? It's all very shady. It's all really just people moving money around and then somehow coming out ahead of the game. It's slimy. It's people getting rich without providing a service or a product to anybody, except in the case of when these hedge funds invest other people's money on their behalf because they've got this, high-minded knowledge of the stock market that the plebs don't have. So they're like, hey, we'll invest your money for you and we promise a return. So what happened is that this Melvin Capital shorted 140% of GameStonks, and people on Reddit didn't like that because
they found out about it.
Yes, they found out about it. And the subreddit over on Reddit called Wallstreet Bets, or WSB, there's a guy, his name was Deep Fucking Value. That was his Reddit screen name. And he's the guy that found out that, he's the guy that found out that Melvin Capital was trying GameStop. And what he did was he just got on the Reddit boards and was like, hey, GameStop is about to be shorted. This company, pulls through.
Oh.
Great. So he said, the GameStop is about to be shorted. This Melvin Capital is going to make billions if it goes through. Let's buy up GameStop and put a little hurt to them.
Yeah,
right?
jack the prices up.
Yeah, so I don't know because I'm not on Wall Street Bets, so I don't know for sure. But I am willing to bet that this was just going to be something like, hey, let's make it so that they're not as, they don't turn as big a profit as they thought they would. And then it just kind of spiraled out of control to the point where I think at its high point, GameStop went to like $486 a share, which is retarded for a company that's running on like a brick and mortar retail business in
it's
2020 stores.
It's absolutely insane. GameStop is not a company that's going to be with us for very long. I can't imagine. This is a company that works out of malls and outlets, and they sell physical games and accessories to gaming consoles. That's not going to be a business that they can run for very long. And to see them jump through the roof the way they have, it's an amazing thing to watch. I don't think anything like this has ever happened before, where you have millions of amateur stockbrokers, right? Amateur investors deciding to go all in on this one stock with the sole purpose of fucking over these rich billionaire hedge fund guys and making a lot of money in the process. Like, some of these guys have become millionaires in the course of a week because, when you buy stock that's like worth $4 and you buy, I don't know, $500 worth of it, and then it shoots up to $500, like, holy shit.
Yeah,
like, I didn't expect that to happen.
Yeah, I heard Deep Fucking Value, his initial investment in GameStonk was something like $13,000 worth of stock at the low end, and now his investment at the high point I think hit over 30 million, and he said he's not selling because he would rather lose money than let Melvin Capital win.
Oh man. Well, see, that's the thing about it. Melvin Capital has to buy the stock back. That's the deal. That's what the deal is. They borrow it, sell it, buy it back, and then give it back to its original owner. They have to buy 140% of GameStonk, right? They don't have a choice. They're like, oh, the bottom's going to fall out. Well, yeah, of course the bottom's going to fall out, but they still have to pay him for the stock. So it's like,
right. And I What I heard today was the prices kind of leveled off at right around $112. It might be a little, but
Still.
things have, which is still a lot more than like the 20 that it started at.
Yeah, no, it was like down at 10. It was less than 10, I think. Like when this whole thing started, GameStop was not worth very much. And it really just goes to show you just the anger that people still feel over what's been going on in this country. People are feeling a lot of pain right now, and they've been feeling that pain for a long time. I mean, and a lot of this goes back to the '08 crash. Right? A lot of people grew up in that time frame. A lot of people remember their families losing their homes, losing their jobs, losing their businesses. And then in this COVID lockdown, all that's happening all over again where people are out of work. The government's sending 600 stimmy checks to people. It's like, here, go spend it on Amazon. And they take that like, Amazon, fuck that. I'm going to invest in GameStop and make millions. Because some guy on Reddit told me it was a good idea.
Yeah, and that's the whole Wall Street bets thing, is that nobody on Wall Street actually takes the WSB subreddit seriously. The amateur, what they call retail investors, just regular Joes dealing penny stocks or whatever. And in addition, you have guys that are actually worth quite a bit of money doing what they call YOLO investments, where they will literally drop their entire life savings on something, just on the off chance that it makes money. And some of these people make out like bandits, and some of these people are absolutely ruined. But by and large, the general feeling over there is YOLO.
I mean, that's very much seems to be the attitude. I mean, and there's a lot of misconceptions about what the stock market actually provides for the economy, because there is value in a capitalistic society to a stock market, right? The idea behind it is that a business has a great idea, but they need capital in order to make it happen, right? Like, I got a great idea, it can make millions, but shit, I don't have any money to actually make that happen, right? So the stock market is how a lot of companies create capital in order to invest back into their company and make that money back. That's what a stock market's for. It's not supposed to be a casino, right? It's not supposed to be, and it's not supposed to be the sole place where people can make enough money to retire off of or to own a home or something like that. And that's a large part of what people are missing about this whole situation, is that they are focusing solely on their anger of Wall Street and hedge funds, and I get it. And a lot of these people, they deserve that anger, and they deserve the mocking, and they deserve the means. And you know what? If you can coughing dance Melvin Capital into the ground, go ahead and do it. And I'm right there with you. I'm cheering you on 100%. Go for it. Fucking bury these people. But let's not forget who the biggest enemy in all this is. It's not hedge funds. It's not Wall Street bros. It's not the stock market. It's the Federal Reserve. They're the ones that are making it so you can't save your money and retire off of that. See, there used to be a point in time where you could put your money in a savings account and you could earn interest on that savings account, and you can earn money that way, and you can retire off of that after working for your life. That used to be the way that most people saved for retirement. But what has the Federal Reserve been doing with our money since 2008? 0% interest. That's what they've been doing. They've been pushing interest rates down to zero into the basement and holding them there for over a decade. And you know what that does? That destroys your money. It destroys the value of the cash you have on hand. If you just sit there with money and leave it in a savings account forever, all that's going to happen is it's going to be eaten away by inflation, which, oh, by the way, the Federal Reserve is responsible for that as well. So you just leave it in there in savings, and the Federal Reserve eats away at it with inflation, and you can't get any money on it with interest rates, because the Federal Reserve has kept them at zero. So what happens next? You have to make your money some way. You can't just hold on to it. So everybody is forced to invest that money in the stock market. And not everybody's cut out to work in the stock market. I've never personally bought or sold a stock in my life, and I don't want to. I don't want to gamble in the stock market because I'm not an expert in that. I don't know how to make money in the stock market, right? Like this GameStop thing took me completely by surprise. I didn't know any of this was going to happen. And well, I'm not alone. Melvin Capital didn't know this was going to happen either. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done it, right? But see, that's just my point. The Federal Reserve is what creates these situations to begin with. This is not a case to say that all these people on Wall Street are saints and heroes and need to be commended. They're not. But they're not the ones that create these sorts of situations in the first place. The people that make these situations happen live in Washington, D.C., not New York City.
Yep, you are 100% correct there. Now, you said a little bit ago about the purpose of the stock market in a capitalist society would be ideally, rather than playing it like a casino or just having a bunch of people with more free anything else to, make money by moving money around. The idea of the stock market is for people with, in order to get their ideas off the ground, to get capital put into their businesses or their ideas in order to start manufacturing or providing whatever service. And yeah, Gary, your Sucker Punch 3 pepper fiery pickles, I'm sure they're great. And I'm sure you're drunk.
By the way, guys, if you're hearing us read comments to you, it's because when we do these videos live, you can comment on YouTube and Facebook and have your comments read live on the air if we think they're good or funny enough. And I just thought that Scuba Guy 007 reminding me again and again to mention his pickles was kind of funny. So, there you go.
That's Gary. Anyways, what I was saying was that in a way, this happening now coincides with a brand new 21st century model for people wanting to fund their businesses or their ideas.
It's because when
a little audio back there.
Sorry.
But anyways, we have things like Patreon and Subscribestar and yes, OnlyFans, as well as things like Indiegogo and Kickstarter. We have television programs like Shark Tank, where idea to a bunch of rich people, and the rich people decide whether or not that they want to fund the idea. So in a way, this new 21st century way of funding your idea or getting your business off the ground is coinciding with a 21st century way to tear the old system down. And unless there's some type of heavy-handed approach by Washington in order to keep the old school Wall Street status quo the way it is, and I fully suspect that a heavy-handed approach is coming, because Wall Street kickbacks is how a lot of these monsters butter their bread. Mm-hmm. But I think that if this was allowed to run its course, the market would eventually correct itself, and we would see a much, well, maybe not a much less, but we would see less emphasis on the centralized Wall Street approach to capital and more of the democratized, widespread, crowdsourced method of funding new businesses and new ideas. And the reason that we have that is because regulations and certain taxation schemes, things like capital gains tax, which is really gonna bite a lot of these young kids who jumped in on this GameStop thing. Capital gains tax is probably going to be a rude awakening to a lot of them, and other types of regulations that keep smaller mom and pop style businesses from expanding. Those are the sorts of things that make it so that your mom and pop franchise with like 2 or 3 stores doesn't get publicly traded, because they can't afford to jump through all of those hoops and hire the brokerage firms and get the capital investment hedge fund, blah blah blah, all these buzzwords and everything, in order to actually be competitive in that market. That's why the stock market is dominated by the Amazons, the Walmarts, et cetera. With the new spread out and democratized version, like the Kickstarters and Indiegogos, it's going to bring a level of capital investment from the people to the people and to the ideas that they want to have.
All right, guys, I want to take a quick break to let you know about something we got going on. As you know, Road to Liberty sells merchandise at our website, roads2liberty.com. Well, this month and this month only, if you subscribe to our YouTube channel and post a comment in one of our recent videos telling us which shirt is your favorite, at the end of the month, we will enter you into a drawing to win a free shirt from our Road to Liberty store. Right? So what you got to do, you got to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Roads to Liberty, Roads the number 2 Liberty, and you've got to make a comment on what your favorite shirt is. And how do you know what your favorite shirt is? Well, you got to go to roads the number 2 liberty.com, look through the inventory of what shirts we have, and tell us which one is your favorite. There's quite a few on there. I'm sure you'll find one you love. At the end of the month, you'll be entered to win one of our free shirts. All right, so back to the show. I mean, that's the thing about it. Had the market been allowed to correct itself previously, a lot of problems that we see today wouldn't happen. Like an economic downturn isn't just, the market deciding to take a shit for no reason. It's reacting to something. It's reacting to malinvestments in the economy and correcting that. The problem, it's like a cold, right? When you get sick, what does your body do? It heats up. It gives you a fever, but that's the body's way of getting rid of the disease. It wants to burn the disease that's making you sick to death, right? That's sort of what a recession is supposed to be. It's burning away the bad investments and giving us a reset in the economy so we can start again on a better footing. What the Federal Reserve does every time that happens, though, is they see the fever and they're like, oh, we need to stop the fever. That can't be allowed to happen. So they stop the fever. You no longer feel sick because you're not burning up anymore. But the fever was there for a reason. It was killing the disease. And the longer you put off the fever, right? The longer you put off that process, the worse the disease is going to get. And the worse it's going to be when you can no longer put off the cure anymore. Right? And that's the beautiful thing about this Reddit thing. This is what you might call a market correction, right? Because it's bad business to shortchange a company 140%. That's a bad idea. That's a huge gamble. And you need to be kicked in the teeth to let you know, hey, yeah, that's a bad thing. You shouldn't do that. And to let everybody else in the future know that's a bad investment and you shouldn't be doing that. That's what this Reddit thing is. In the grand scheme of things, it's a market correction. It's the market regulating itself. This is what that looks like, right? Because it's shortchanging 140%. That's shortchanging is as sleazy business as it is. The biggest problem, however, is when you have these giant Wall Street firms that are so large and so powerful that they by buying and selling these stocks, they can manipulate the price simply by that, right? So they borrow all this stock and sell it a whole lot, and the price drops precipitously, which is exactly what they want to happen because they want to buy it back at a lower price, right? So what Reddit is doing is they're countering that. They're regulating that. They're saying, hey, that's a bad idea. It's a bad investment, and we're going to make you pay for it.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. But here's the kind of it's not a counter argument. It's kind of supplemental is the fact that what happened with Reddit and GameStop and Melvin Capital and then all of the other hedge funds that rushed to Melvin's defense, it wasn't necessarily just a market correction, because a lot of what the Reddit people did, they didn't do because they valued GameStop stock as a commodity. They did it out of spite. And that's not necessarily a market correction so much as it is weaponizing the market, crowdsourced weaponization of the market. Now, we've seen these sorts of things before in the past. I forget the two guys' names. I just remembered them a little bit ago, and then they just escaped me. But it was two guys, two billionaires. One of them decided to short on, I think it was like Bed Bath and Beyond or something. And then another billionaire who just didn't like the guy was like, no, I'm going to buy up a bunch of Bed Bath and Beyond stock and drive the price up just to screw with this guy. And he did it. So what we're seeing now is, rather than like a one billionaire versus another, or one hedge fund versus another, you're seeing a mass coordinated effort of a lot of people on a social media site versus a hedge fund. And that type of weaponization, I talked to Sam Culper about this on Friday. We're about half a second away from people realizing that if things stay the way that they are, they can realistically do this to anyone. Now, think about that for a moment. What would happen?
Anyone who short stocks.
Yes.
Right? That's the whole thing about this. You can't just do this to anyone. It has to be on shorted stocks. And the more shorted the stocks, the more potential you have to make.
Correct. Yes. And because short selling has a time limit, you don't necessarily have to wait forever. Because short selling, like you said at the beginning, when you're shorting something, you're borrowing stock from somebody else with the expectation that you're going to be giving that stock back at a certain time frame. So
can you imagine being one of those dudes that lent these hedge funds their GameStonk? They're sitting here being like, oh shit, the only way I'm getting this stock back is if the value drops dramatically.
No, that's not true. Because once the time expires on the short, Melvin Capital and the other hedge funds that decided to bail them out must buy that stock back no matter what the price is, even if it drives them into insolvency, even if they have to go to the banks for a loan. They have to buy it back in order to return it to the brokerage firm that they borrowed it from.
Yeah, but I'm talking about if you're the brokerage. I'm talking about if you're the brokerage firm. Right? And
they're getting their stock back no matter what.
Well, yeah, but it's not going to be worth anything by the time they get it back. Because the only reason it's worth so much now is because these hedge funds need to buy it back. Right? And they can't. And the fact that there's a set number of supply and there's demand, right? There's a lot of demand because they have to buy the stock back. But once they buy it back and give it back to their stockbrokers or whoever they're giving it back to, at that point, the stock's going to go back to $4 a stock because nobody actually wants GameStonks. It's not actually worth anything.
Yeah,
they're going to get it back and like, oh, thanks.
Yeah, it'll be a race though because right
really
now.
Happy to get my stock back.
Huh?
Hello?
Still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Are you here?
You there? Okay, good. Yeah, you cut out for a second.
Okay.
Yep. But anyways, yeah. So it'll be kind of a race when you're dealing with these short stocks. So like let's say Melvin Capital, they're forced to buy back however much they shorted. At $100 or $112 or wherever it's at right now, they're forced to buy it back, and then they give it back to their brokerage firm. At that time, them forcing to buy it back is going to drive the price up even more. So they buy it back at like $100 because they bought all of this stock. The price is going to go up to, just using round numbers here, $150. And then they give it back to the brokerage firm. The brokerage firm is probably going to be like, holy shit, when I lent this out to Melvin, 2 weeks ago it was worth $4 and now it's worth $150. I'm just going to dump it right now. And what that's going to do is it's going to crash the price down to next. Probably going to put GameStop out of business, but GameStop's been on its last legs for a while.
I mean, here's the thing: it won't put GameStop out of business because GameStop's not making money out of this, right? Unless they make new stock and sell it, then they'll make money. But that'll just drop the price if they do that, right? Because if GameStop issues new stock and sells it, then all these hedge funds will be like, "Oh shit, I'll just buy the new stock," and that'll make all the existing stock. It's just inflation via stocks, But I mean, otherwise, yeah, GameStop doesn't make money off of this. I mean, they're not the ones holding their stock. It's all the Redditors. They're holding all the stock. They're making the money. So GameStop just in there like, holy shit, what do we do now? Yeah, imagine being them right now. They know they're going out of business. They know they're not a good bet for anybody, and yet their stock is through the roof for no good reason. And not just their stock, AMC, Bed Bath & Beyond, Nokia, Dogecoin, whatever the fuck that is. The Doge.
Dogecoin, man. I'm calling it right now. Your congressman-elect is calling that Dogecoin replaces the U.S. dollar as world reserve currency by 2023.
Yeah, and
Bank on
instead of backed by oil like the U.S. dollar, it's backed by dank memes.
Yeah, exactly, and that's much more valuable.
Exactly.
Because let's be honest, man. The U.S. dollar is not even backed by oil either. It's backed by threat of force.
Yeah,
it's backed by the U.S. military.
It's backed by tanks, guns, and airplanes, not oil. I mean, wouldn't you much rather the stability of the world be in the hands of shit posters? Wouldn't you much rather? Because shit posters don't want to kill people. They just want to make dank memes and laugh about it.
True, but the idea of an armament-backed currency is actually kind of enticing to me.
All right. What do you want to go over? What some of the reaction to this the insurrection on Reddit, as I've seen it called, has been?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so there's two sides to this. Okay, the Wall Street crowd, the professional political class, and the media crowd are calling this some type of like white supremacist Nazi gamer. I mean, they're throwing all of the buzzwords.
Jimmy Kimmel insinuated that these were all Russian bots.
Yep, there's the Russian shit stirrers, and one thing that I saw was that because there was some spicy anti-Semitic language being tossed around in some of these subreddits and Discord servers, that this was a coordinated white nationalist attempt to bankrupt Jewish-owned hedge funds. It's like racist and anti-Semitic stuff is just something that happens on Discord servers because it's offensive. Because it's funny because it's offensive. They're not sincere. You fucking potatoes.
No, see, they use that as an excuse to take down Wall Street bets temporarily. Like we found some hate speech in this subreddit, so we're gonna take it down. Like, shut the fuck up. No, you didn't. Or if you did, that you only started looking for it because you wanted to take them down in the first place.
Right.
So anyway.
Well, the Wall Street Bets Discord server was taken down for hate speech. It turns out that the Wall Street Bets sub was taken down not because of hate speech or anything like that, but because like 2.5 million people tried to join it on that day, and they just couldn't keep up, and it crashed the servers. So Reddit did nothing wrong. Discord is the slimy piece of shit company that I've been saying that they are for a while now.
Discord, Robinhood. There's a lot of slimy companies that are showing their colors.
Right. So on the flip side of this, you've got Bernie Sanders, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Donald Trump Jr., Ted Cruz, and a bunch of other people are in full agreement. This is what unity looks like. That what Robinhood did to the small-time investors was absolutely unforgivable, and that legal action should be taken. Because in addition to halting trading in the middle of a trading day on certain select stocks, now the stock market has stopped trading in the middle of a trading day before, but that was halted all trading. To stop on a handful of certain stocks has never been done before. So Wall Street did that.
And Robinhood was still allowing these people to sell their GameStonks, just not to buy it. It's very important.
Yes.
Because that's the thing. They want people to sell their stock back to the hedge funds. That's what they want. They want the value to go down so people will panic and sell it.
Exactly, and that's what they were trying to get people to do, was to sell what they already had in order for these hedge funds to not hemorrhage as much money as they were. And so Wall Street stopped trading. Robinhood and a couple of other apps decided that they were going to allow people to sell but not allow people to buy, and then they put caps on it to where you could, it started out where you could only purchase or have 5 shares of GameStop, and then they kept cranking it down because one guy's like, hey, I'm capped at 5, so I'm going to call my buddy Bob up and be like, hey Bob, buy 5 shares of GameStop. We're bankrupting Wall Street. And, just the democratization and crowdsourcing economic warfare. And they eventually drove it down to 1 share per person.
Did you think, I wonder what all these guys in Washington are thinking. They just sent out $600 stimmy checks to everybody. And we were supposed to spend all that money on Amazon and at Walmart, because you can't use that money at your favorite mom and pop shop down the road, because that's closed down and that's never opening back up again. Thanks, government. But instead of spending it all on Amazon, they went and spent it on GameStonks, which is a beautiful thing. And here's the thing that really I think there is going to be some kind of regulatory response from the government on this. And it's not going to be obvious. It's not going to be Joe Biden walking out in front of a bunch of cameras and saying, we need to fight Reddit. Right? There's going to be some obscure action by some obscure regulatory body that is going to tweak the rules a little bit so that this is much harder to happen in the future. And the reason that's going to happen is because here's the thing, guys. When little guys win on the stock market, you know what little guys do when they make a whole bunch of money that they weren't expecting? They go out and they buy toys and pay bills, right? That's what they do. That's what I do. If I all of a sudden had $5,000 more, I'd pay bills and buy a few toys, right? Put some away in savings. But you know what these hedge fund guys do when they make a whole bunch of money on the stock market? They don't go out and just buy toys and pay bills. They go buy politicians. They go out there and they pay for the re-election campaigns of important, powerful people in Washington, D.C. And then those people in Washington, D.C. do favors for these people. That's how this works. That's how the cycle goes, right? So when you hurt the pocketbooks of these hedge fund Wall Street types, what you're really doing is hurting the election campaigns of politicians in Washington, D.C. And that's the last thing they want. Because the entire purpose of these Washington, D.C. politicians is to get reelected. That is literally the only thing these fuckers care about. And when you hurt the hedge funds, you hurt them. And that's why this is not... That's why they're not going to let this go silently into that good night. They're going to respond to this in some way, shape, or form that isn't really all that obvious to the average layman. Because they don't want people knowing what they're doing, right? That's why they're laying down the groundwork now. That's why they're calling them white supremacists and Russian bots and calling it a symptom of Trumpism, right? CNN came out with that smooth brain article not too long ago about how this the GameStonks was a symptom of Trumpism because Trump didn't like the elites. Reddit doesn't like the elites. See where we're going here? Trumpism. And therefore, bad. And therefore, government needs to do something to stop it. That's all this is right now. It's laying down the groundwork. And don't think for an instance that the fact that the Washington Post is owned by Jeff Bezos is not important here. Like all these corporate media types, they're also in the pockets of these Wall Street hedge fund dudes, right? They all suck those dudes' dick. Do not think for a second that CNN and MSNBC, any of these people, or Fox News for that matter, are actually independent media types. No. They have their bosses who set their agendas for them, and it's all about money. It's always been about money. They don't have your best interest in heart. And don't think for a second that they do.
Yep, absolutely. 100% on the money there, if I can use a little bit of a pun. So, yeah, that's about all I've got to say on that. There is one other story that I'd like to bring up tonight if you are done with GameStonk.
Go for it. I got another thing I want to talk about too, but you do yours first.
Okay, so Gary over here in the comments section, he says, because we were talking about using our stimmy checks and our profits and whatever to buy toys and pay bills, and he says he buys guns and ammo. Well, gun control is back on the menu, boys. And
this is a topic that's going to take an entire episode.
Yeah, so just the short and sweet of it is Maxine Waters floated the new HR 127, which is the new. It's absolutely insane, and in any other political environment, I would say that it would have absolutely of passing, but because we have Democrat control of the House, the Senate, and the White House, and we have about a half in the Senate that are as squishy as warm Jello when it comes to anything, this might actually have a chance of passing. Now, the big topic or big hot button issues on HR 127 is that guns will be expected to pay $800 for a license every year for the first 3 years. And then after the 3 years, it'll be every 3 years. There will be a mandatory psych exam to make sure that you're mentally fit to exercise your God-given Second Amendment rights.
And I wonder who's paying for that.
Oh, you are.
Yeah, so on top of the $800, you got to do that too.
Right. There will be obviously the things like assault weapons and high-capacity magazines and all the other, buzzwords and shit that they don't have. They don't know what any of these things are. They just know they're scary. Those things are banned. But probably the most terrible of this is that you will be required to tell the government what guns you own, how you store them, and where you store them. But in addition to that being terrible, this registration case will be made public, which means that all they're doing is giving a shopping list to criminals who want to steal your gun.
Yeah, because that's pretty amazing that not only will you be required to register your guns, but they're going to put it in a public database where everyone can access and know how you store your guns and where you store your guns and what guns you have. So
Yep,
here's the thing.
and
Here's the thing. A lot of people are going to be like, well, what do I care? I have the guns. People try to break into my house and get my guns. I'll just shoot them. Like, okay, yeah. But what about when you leave your house? I mean,
you
nobody
got to
is
go to
in their
work.
nobody is in their house 24/7. Like, oh, I got mine in a safe. Cool. They'll take the safe. Not everyone's
that's,
got a giant room-sized gun safe, right?
Yep.
It's wouldn't be too hard to take a handgun, to take a little handgun safe home with you, right?
Nope.
And then you can just break into it at your heart's content.
Yep. And in addition to that, one of the things that I thought was most bizarre was that in addition to telling the government like where it's at and how it's stored and everything, if you want to display a gun in your house, like if you have, your granddad's shotgun up above the mantelpiece or whatever, you have to get that gun appraised and certified as an antique and get a license for antique firearms display. What the fuck?
Bruh.
That have to do with anything?
You know what it has to do with anything. I mean, the point of all this is not to make people safe. The point of all this is to disarm you. Because that's a lot of things. For someone that wants to stay on the right side of the law, that is way too much to comply with to make gun ownership worth it. The only
I don't have that
way,
kind of money.
yeah, the only way to make gun ownership worth it in that situation is just simply not obey the law. Is just simply go rogue and be like, yeah, I'm not going to do it. Whatever.
Yeah,
like,
and that's what most people are going to end up doing is either not complying. You're going to have a few cucks that turn their stuff in, to which I say away from me. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's like this guy says, 127 is beyond insane. It's designed to be uncompliable. Yeah, that's exactly the point. They want everybody to be like, this isn't worth it anymore.
And you know exactly what's going to happen. They're going to implement this, and they can't enforce something. There's no possible way the government can enforce something like this on a large scale. It's not doable, which is why they use scapegoats. Like they'll find some legit white supremacist Nazi guy hiding out in the woods, and they'll go after him, and then they'll do the old switcheroo. Like, look, everybody that doesn't comply with these laws, this is what you're like. You're all white supremacists. And then the corporate media will get on their little typewriters and they'll be like, why Trumpism is responsible for the non-compliance with gun control. Like, why this is all white supremacy or Russian hackery or whatever the hell it is. That's exactly what they'll do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And look, this is a topic that when it starts getting closer to being something, we can talk all night about it, right? This is an episode long topic, so we're not going to go much further into it tonight because I'm sure sometime in the future we probably will. So we're not going to go too far into it, but I that's what we're going to say about that now. I got a different topic I want to go into. So as we all know, the Democratic Party has control of the White House, the Senate, and the House, right? They have control of government. But I want to go take you back in time and give you a little history on the fall of the Roman Senate. Because not a lot of people realize that the Roman Senate did not end when Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon and declared himself emperor. It didn't end with Caesar Augustus. The Roman Senate went on existing well into the Byzantine era, right? Well into the Middle Ages. There was a Roman Senate. But the Roman Senate didn't simply fall because some emperor said they no longer existed or stripped them of their power. No. That's not the reason the Roman Senate fell. The Roman Senate fell because Roman senators decided it was more important for them to be in an elite club of rich debaters than it was to be in an actual legislative branch that actually wielded power. And I think that is what we are seeing today in the modern day U.S. legislative branch. What we're seeing today is that members of the Senate and members of the House are more interested in remaining in power than they are in actually utilizing that power. They want to be in the club. They want to be important. They want to be powerful, but they don't want any of the responsibility that goes along with that. And that is why you see every single year you have these gigantic omnibus bills that pass the House and get crammed through the Senate at the very last minute. And that's where they get all their wish list of things in there, because when you do it that way, there's no way to actually hold any one person responsible for what's in that bill. So why am I bringing this up? Well, I'm bringing this up because of certain Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer had this to say about what he hopes Joe Biden does in the near future. Let me play it for you. Okay, so why is this specifically very important, right? The reason this is important is because that's the Senate Majority Leader. Anything that he wants Joe Biden to do, he can pass in the Senate. He doesn't need Joe Biden taking emergency powers in order to pass some climate change bill. But he needs Joe Biden to do that in order to avoid taking responsibility for it. That's the key issue here. What we are seeing right now, and it's been going on for a while, but it's especially accelerated with Joe Biden's first 2 weeks in office, is the consolidation of power in the hands of the executive branch. And this is not new, but it is accelerating because right now you have the Democratic Party in complete control of the legislative process. They control the reins of power. They do not need to use executive orders in order to get their agenda pushed through, but they are still relying on executive orders. This is just further proof that the legislative branch is useless, it's neutered, and that the members who make it up are completely and utterly worthless at anything. This is how the Roman Senate fell. This is how the Roman Senate turned into the ruling body in ancient Rome into an obscure and irrelevant club of rich old men who sat around in their robes accomplishing nothing. And that is what the U.S. Senate is going to be eventually, and it's well on its way to being that now.
Well said. But, and yeah, people are over here saying that there was no audio. I didn't hear anything either, so I guess it wasn't just me.
No, sorry.
On the Chucky Schumer.
Sorry about that. Well, essentially it was Chuck Schumer saying that he wants Joe Biden to declare climate change a national emergency and for Joe Biden to seize emergency powers in order to deal with that crisis. And whether or not you think that's something that the government should do at all, it should give you pause that the man in charge of the Senate, with the majority of the Senate and a majority in the House as well, is still advocating that the executive branch seize power from the legislature and use it without any checks. That is what Chuck Schumer is encouraging Joe Biden to do.
And if you'll allow me to put on my tinfoil hat here and go a little bit Alex Jones on you here, you're absolutely right that they don't need these executive orders to accomplish any of their goals, but they're relying on them anyways. And I think that the reason that they're doing that is, it's just like you said, so they don't have to take responsibility when this inevitably crashes and burns, because they know that Joe Biden is not all there. And basically they've got people that they're talking in his ear and do. There was a clip from the other day that I saw where they brought out his little folder with his executive order in it, and he's like, I know what I'm signing, and it's like, there's the Biden presidency in a nutshell.
That's what it is, though. It's a lot easier to place responsibility onto the shoulders of a presidential candidate, because when it comes to a presidential candidate, your only other option for 99% of people, because they won't consider a third party, the only other option is, well, in Joe Biden's case, whatever the Republican candidate is. And 90% of Democratic voters aren't going to switch party to vote for any other Republican, right? So they know it's safe. Joe Biden's not going to be primaried. So they know that it's relatively safe to have the president take unpopular actions. But it's not safe for congressmen and senators to do that, because they can be primaried and kicked out of office. That's what happened to AOC's predecessor.
Yep. And Joe Biden's probably not too long for this world anyways. And as long as he's seen what the crazy environmental crowd and the progressive left want to see done in this country, then he's safe, even if he does live throughout the rest of this term and doesn't get 25th Amendmented out for whatever.
Can I say something about unity for a second? Because that's Joe Biden's big key word, right? He wants unity this, unity that. And Democrats would be like, yeah, unity, that's cool. That's a thing we want. Well, here we saw an example of unity in this entire country with this Reddit GameStonks thing. And it's such a unifying event that it brought people from opposite ends of the political aisle, people like AOC and Ted Cruz, together to be like, yeah, we need to investigate this. And what does Miss Unity Democrat AOC do when Ted Cruz goes like, yeah, I agree, let's do something about this? What does she do? She plays victim and pretends like Ted Cruz tried to kill her. Like, that's not how you create unity. That's not what unity looks like. The party in power has to be willing to have unity in order for that to happen. The only way unity happens is if the winning party is gracious in victory. That's the only way it actually happens, right? Because if the winning party isn't willing to be gracious in victory, unity doesn't occur, right? And you don't create unity by pretending that Ted Cruz tried to kill you, because that's absurd and stupid. So here's the thing. The second impeachment is still going on. Democrats are still accusing Republicans of trying to murder them. They'll go, Donald Trump incited violence against us, and that's why he's being impeached. And here's what I have to say to that. It's incitement to violence is a crime. It's an actual real-life crime. So if you think Donald Trump did that, charge him with the crime. No, I'm serious. Charge the man. Charge him with an actual crime of incitement to violence if that's what you actually believe he did. But you know what? They never will. They never will, because they know that's not actually what he did. What he's guilty of is being a firebrand, and that's what they're punishing him for, which is just ridiculous. And it's the same reason why AOC was accusing Ted Cruz of trying to have her murdered. Like, you got to be kidding me. Stop it with that shit.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And I heard one of his lawyers, or not one of his lawyers, but like a lawyer who's kind of not currently in the employ of Trump, but he kind of advises off to the side, talked today about the defense team going up before the Senate, and he said that it was a lot weaker than what he would have liked to see. That this is the opportunity when you're in that Senate trial for him to get up there and use it like the bully pulpit to, lay out the case for whatever he wants. It's his time to lay it all out, or at least have his defense team do it. And his defense team is still playing softball because I guess they want the GOP establishment to still like them or something. I don't know. Donald
Trump was a man that could have done a lot of good while president. There were, and there's a lot of people up until the very last day were counting on him to do the right thing. He never did. Donald Trump has got to have been the softest president in U.S. history. Dude talked a big game. He was a big talker, yada, 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 yada. He couldn't do shit. He couldn't do jack shit because he didn't know jack shit. And that's going to be his lasting legacy going in. It's like the legacy of the mainstream media wants you to think about when you think about Donald Trump is, oh, he's a Nazi, he's a fascist, he's a big old man bad who's bad, right? That's what CNN wants you to think when you think Donald Trump. All I'm going to think of is, oh yeah, this is the guy that wanted to take troops out of Syria and then hired a guy to lie to him about that. That's the legacy that Donald Trump has to me. And it's so disappointing because now we have a president who he's been talking about ending the war in Yemen, hasn't done shit to actually do that, and instead has decided to keep troops in Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan going forward. So that's what we have to look forward to in the future.
Yeah, sends more troops into Syria, or sends troops into Syria, keeps troops in Iraq, keeps troops in Afghanistan, and has militarized Washington, D.C. to a point that we have never seen in our nation's history.
Hey, walls don't work, but they put a wall around the Capitol building.
Yep.
Permanent walls. All right, everybody, that's going to be it for our show tonight. Remember, subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave a comment of what your favorite shirt at the Roads to Liberty store is. The Road to Liberty store is roads2liberty.com. Enter to win a free shirt. Follow us on social media. Hope to see you next week on another episode of the Token and Hobbs Show. Thank you very much for watching. You have a good night, everybody.